Coming to you from the city of the weird. Exploring topics from the esoteric and unexplored to dimensions unknown. Shining a light of truth on the darkest corners of our reality. Welcome to the Curious Realm. Well, hello everybody, and happy Tuesday night as always. Welcome to the Curious Realm. Chris Jordan here, coming at you live from North Austin, Cedar Park area. Hope everybody is doing well. God bless to all of those out there in the Baltimore area. I don't know if you guys have seen that video, man. I've watched that this morning, and I had to step back from life for a minute and think about that, because that was rough, and my heart goes out to anybody whose family was involved with that incident, all the workers, everything else. So prayers for all those guys out there. Our guests tonight, I am very excited, of course, to have in our first segment our good friend Reverend Michael JS Carter is here. He is the author of the new book, Enlightenment. It is an amazing collection of sermons that he has written. We will be talking tonight about belief, specifically belief as it relates to the experiencer, and how things change, how things hypostatically change with you when something happens, and even when something happens to family, friends, things like that. Worlds of belief are shaken, and sometimes worlds of new belief are created. So we're going to explore that a little bit. And after a commercial break, we're going to welcome Samuel Chong. Samuel Chong is the translator of the amazing book, the Thiaoouba Prophecy. And this book is basically a translated journey. The gentleman who had the journey was taken aboard a craft interdimensionally to another planet called Thiaoouba, where he witnessed amazing culture and technology, and was given a very distinct warning about humanity and our future, and not only where we're at right now, but what the future holds for us should we stay this course. So we'll be getting into that after our commercial break tonight. And of course, trying to get somebody on. I should have just had you on, Pastor, to talk about the coming apocalypse with the eclipse, the devil comet, the lunar eclipse that just happened, as well as the Mercury retrograde, and don't forget the Mars-Saturn inoculation. Those two are meeting, inoculating behind the moon as well. So it's more than a trifecta or a hat trick of apocalypse coming.
Be careful driving.
That's it. Exactly.
Just be very cautious driving.
But that kind of springboards us into the conversation tonight, which is belief, Pastor. Mm-hmm. And it can be hard sometimes because, especially over the last many years, the last decade in our country, politically, belief has driven a wedge. Whether you're talking political belief or whether you're talking religious belief and where you lie politically because of that. It's gotten to a point where people literally don't have holiday. Like, we have Easter this weekend. I've got my family reunion. I'm sure many others around the country do too, and I'm sure many others won't be getting together for their family Easter egg roll or what have you because of what somebody believes.
Yeah, it's Well, remember, we were going through this too. Imagining people at Thanksgiving getting together with their family, and you don't want to bring up politics, or maybe you do want to bring up politics. It's a tough thing. I have a half sister who is evangelical, and we love each other bunches. We love each other to death. But there are certain subjects we won't go to. Um, we're not going to talk about UFOs. We're not going to talk about that. We're not going to talk about psychic ability, of which she has in bunches. She doesn't like that word. She's a prophetess, or, you got to say it the right way. The thing about belief is it's about your experiences. You've heard people say, I don't know there's a God. I don't believe there's a God anymore. I know there's a God. And you ask them why,
Yeah.
and they may say, well, because I've experienced this, that, and the other. And see, that's the key. It's your experience. And we still live in a time that's taboo. If your experience doesn't fall into the box that we have set for you, then it's not valid. And I'm speaking specifically of religion here, but we find it in politics and what have you. Once you being a seminarian, once you come to the belief, the perspective that we live in a populated universe, that we are not alone. Once you accept that as reality, then your whole perspective of God has to change, of why we're here. What's the meaning of life? It has to change. And we all know that that's one thing that people find it very, very difficult to do when those sacred cows are being challenged. And I don't know the answer. You can do what I do. It's like an unspoken truce. We just agree to disagree, so we won't go there. I think that's the most healthy thing. If you've tried it before and it gets to be heated, or if you're really evolved, and sometimes I'm good at this. You have to give up being right. You have to give up. I don't need to be right on this.
Absolutely.
Then maybe there's some headway that can be made. But and now we see it in our political life, we see it in our religious life, we see it in our economic life, we see it in foreign policy. It's the challenge of the 21st century, and it's global. What is truth? What is real? Who gets to decide?
Well, and that is a huge part of things, is what is real. What is, I mean, that's something that we get into on this show all the time is by all ninth grade science, man, we are not real. We are 90% empty space. So like when you just start breaking that down and then get into your religious belief. Because it gets thick quick.
But I'm talking about, and you're correct. I'm just saying on that's heavy what you're talking about too. But I'm just saying, can we agree that there's some things that were wrong to do to an individual 5,000 years ago, and they'll be wrong 5,000 years from now.
Yeah.
So, but now it's situational ethics. It's relative. You know, we don't have to. Jesus, I believe in Jesus. Jesus is my savior, but I believe in this over here. You know what I mean? Well, that's Christianity. Those teachings are. But so if they don't fit if they make it uncomfortable for me or inconvenient, then all of a sudden they're not true. Or it's relative. It's relative. And so any society that can't agree on basic truths will collapse.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any society. And I sometimes think this is where we are now. What's news? What is fake news? Obviously, AI plays a part in this, but it's just that we cannot agree anymore, even to disagree. Or, pardon me, what is real? Does 2 plus 2 still equal 4?
Well, and you know that is where a lot of issues start. Is what can we agree on? What common ground can we find? And especially when it becomes the fact of common belief and the want of common belief, the want of commonality and acceptance, that want of confirmation of what you believe, you know, and when you marry that with, well, just straight up cognitive dissonance. Yes. And the idea of, well, this goes against what I believe, and despite all evidence to it being true, I will accept it as false. And yes. That makes it hard, because at that point, you know, and I mean, that was a part, I say it regularly on the show, that was a big part of me kind of stepping away and following my spiritual path instead of my religious path at church, was, you know, coming to somebody with evidence of the spectral and being told, we don't have a teaching on that doesn't exist. And it's but you asked me to believe in the spectral without evidence.
Yes.
You asked me to accept on faith.
Exactly.
And that was a hard leap of logic for me.
Well, because, you know, you can come to a point where you don't have to have faith. You can know. You can know. The thing, but remember, to know is subjective.
Yes.
I can say, when I hear people saying they believe that there's life in outer space, or I don't come out and say, oh, come on, I know, as if I'm an authority, but I will say, you know, I don't even start from that point of departure anymore. Whether I'm lecturing, whether I'm doing a conference, I just come out with the point of departure. Remember that old seminary talk? The point. What's your point of departure?
That's right.
What's the point of departure? Is that we live in a populated universe.
That's right.
That's it. That's my jumping off point.
Yeah.
Now, someone may say to me they don't believe in God, and I can say, okay, because I respect that. But to me, I know there's something greater than me. I might not use that word, or I will use the word, but I'll explain what it means. But why? Because I've experienced it.
Yeah. At least what you know and believe to be God. Yes, exactly. Right. And that, exactly. Yeah.
And that's got to be okay.
That's right. That's right.
But in many places, whether we're talking about UFOs and belief and religion, or whether we're talking about anything, it's if it's not in our society, the measure of faith has to be, you have to recite the party line. And heaven help you if you believe in UFO. When I get people coming to me, I'm sure with you as well, with the religious background and training, can I still be a Christian and believe in a populated universe? Can I still be Jewish and believe? And I say, of course you can. But, that's the end of the sentence, but you're going to have to catch some flack, because obedience is measured, righteousness is measured, faith is measured by you parroting the party line.
Yeah.
And it's like it's the greatest peer pressure you can ever have, because you and I both know people who are in positions of authority. They could be religious, they could be even political or what have you. But if they come out and say they believe in extraterrestrials, their tenure will be taken. They will lose their jobs. And I say that because I don't want to be so judgy, because I know people who know, but I get it. They're not out lying intentionally. They just have to say, everything I've worked for, I will throw away. And I don't want to do that.
Yeah, because that means everything attached to it gets thrown away. That means everybody else's good work attached to it gets thrown away. Things like that. And you have to be willing to admit that, and you have to be willing to take that on shoulders, and realize that, and Here's the thing. Yes, a lot of that, I will say, even when it comes to research, it's one of those you got to double, triple, quadruple check. You know, I mean, it was double, triple checked before we figured out that no, the guy with the room temperature semiconductor wasn't a room temperature semiconductor. But it took a few people and a few people trying to replicate and a few people going through and looking at math and going, I don't know, man, this is pretty close. This is pretty close. And
so belief and experience are two different things.
Yeah.
They're two different things. And so sometimes they never meet and sometimes they can. Ideally they can, because that's what religious faith is about. I think that Dr. King said faith is taking the first step when you don't see the rest of the staircase. And I like that. Of course, what Paul talks about in Corinthians. But faith is, you can move beyond faith to, I know. When I just finished reading a book on Plato, and they were talking about Socrates, obviously, you have to. And that Socrates had said, you guys go to live and I go to die. Whatever is best, I don't know.
Yeah.
But the way the book, the serenity that Socrates had, of course, he had his moral compass and his integrity and what have you, but he didn't believe that he would live on. He knew it.
Yeah. Yeah. Precisely. Precisely. And because he held that idea of we are what we teach, we are what we put forth, and I guess that would bring up the idea of, especially whenever I ask people or whenever the conversation comes up and people are like, oh, I'm atheist. Number one, I've met very few actual atheists in the world. Most folks are real, maybe hardcore agnostic, something like that. But once you get to the point of like, okay, do you believe that you can change reality around you? And once you start getting to the points of manifestation, once you start getting to the points of, even Gestalt therapy, which is very much NLP, whenever you start looking at the modern practice of neurolinguistic programming and the idea of, okay, let's go back, let's find a trauma, recognize it. Cool. You see it. Now back up from it. Is it gone yet? Okay. Recognize it again. Can you see it?
It's a wonderful modality.
And moving away from it. And it's interesting, to feel those bands of attachment snap on something. And I don't think enough people give themselves the credit that is possible through their own means.
We're not taught that it is. We're not taught that it is. I mean, for me, the saving grace was, like you, I appreciate the life of the mind. Love it. But I also was using it to not feel the pain I was feeling. Yeah. I was hiding behind the intellect, not consciously. And that, Gestalt therapy addresses that. It's a whole body, mind, spirit kind of modality. And it opened me up. I got rid of, the language they use. You get rid of the armor, the body armor, so you can start feeling things that you didn't know were there. So I'm a proponent of, if you can get a good therapist or counselor, you can add years of happiness to your life. But again, getting back to belief and experience, I don't want to make it versus experience.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah. It just makes all the difference in the world. What is the paradox is like, if we look at religion wants you to experience God, But if you don't experience the way the playbook says
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
then you are punished for that.
Yeah. If it's not within the Kleenex box
Yeah,
of God.
and that's what's scary. And it's been scary throughout history.
Yeah.
Whether you're talking about, the man we call Jesus, whether you're talking about Siddhartha, whether you're talking about Joan of Arc,
Well,
if it doesn't fit this box, then the very thing we want you to experience, we will turn on you.
Yeah. Yeah. These experiences run deep. These experiences are things that are frequently traumatic for people. Most of the books behind me do not start off like a John Denver song. They start off like a Disney movie. Like somebody dies, like horrible things happen to somebody at the end. Things are redeemed by the end of it, and there's a happy song. But they typically don't start off well for somebody involved in the book.
And because it's and this is for the atheist, the agnostic, those who don't know and don't care, and even for the religious.
Yeah.
What we're talking about is the hero's journey.
Yes.
What we're talking about is the shero's journey. And so for people who you look at the Jesus story, which many of us will be looking at this Sunday, and tomorrow night, and Monday, Thursday, tomorrow night in Bible study. It's the hero's journey. It's you come into the world, and the world has molded you, or they're telling you what it's like to be a man, what it's like to be a woman, and you take that on. What is it you're supposed to believe? What's fake news and what isn't? And you take that on, and then an event happens, and you start to question all that, and you start realizing that you are not what you were told you were by your parents, by your society, and whatever. And something wakes you up and snaps you out of that. And so then this rebirth, it's this caterpillar becoming the butterfly, right? It's this metamorphosis. And then you become who you truly are. That is the hero's journey. And it's in all, I don't care whether you're talking about Muhammad, I don't care whether you're talking about Buddha, I don't care whether you're talking about Jesus, and we're all called to walk that journey.
It's the story of Luke Skywalker, man.
Exactly.
Like it's
exactly.
And that's why Joseph Campbell called it the hero's journey, is because when you start looking at Hercules, all of them, Gilgamesh, that doesn't matter. All of these people followed the same arc of a journey.
Right, and they went from belief at some point to knowing.
Yep.
And they also had to shed the beliefs that they were told to have.
Yes.
Okay, so that could be UFOs, it could be NDEs, it could be anything. And so that's where the rubber hits the road.
Yeah.
And we can get in the way with all the dogma and the doctrines, but when you clear away the fat and spit out the bones, religion is trying to make sense of life, trying to make sense of death, but in between, what's the old thing about the dashes, on your tombstone? Michael Carter, born 1957, dash. Maybe it's 2054 or whatever. Life, it's not about the 57 and the 2054. It's about the dash.
Yeah. It's about the dash in between them.
Yes.
And what you did there.
That's where life is.
Well, and even the idea of, I'm a fourth degree Knight of Columbus. I'll tell everybody a little secret about the Knight of Columbus. Tempus fugit, memento mori. Frequently on old crucifixes, things like that, you will see a small skull and crossbones on the bottom. That is a fourth degree Knight of Columbus cross. And that is the skull and crossbones of course, John the Baptist. But along with that goes the Latin phrase, tempus fugit, memento mori. Time flies, remember death.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that doesn't mean be morbid. What that means is remember that the only thing you're going to be remembered for is your time here
Yeah.
and what you did.
Yeah.
So how will you be remembered? How will your family's name be remembered?
What's my legacy?
How will your legacy be seen by your children? Those are the things that you need to always have on your mind, because you never know the day or the hour.
Right. And death gives life an urgency. I'm going to be talking about that Sunday. I mean, it's not going to be morbid, and we're going to go to life, but death gives life an urgency. Knowing that you're not going to be here forever gives an urgency to life, that whatever mark I want to make, I need to be doing it.
Yeah.
And as you get older, I need to be doing it now. And so, but that's what we're here to do.
Yep.
And you're here to do it whether you've had a UFO experience, whether you've had an NDE, whether you've had an OBE. All those things are good things to have along the way, but they're not the way. Those are things that happen to you along the way. Yeah. But life is to be lived. And it's easy to lose sight of that, as you and I have talked about before, with all the distractions, the lunar eclipse, the Mercury retrograde. I'm not saying those things aren't important.
They're there. They are there. And they absolutely influence things 110%.
Yeah.
Look at how they are influencing things.
Yeah, you have to navigate it. And you can get caught up in all that you miss the day. Yeah. And so that's what we're here to do. And belief in life, you could say belief in God, or you could put the L word there. Belief in life, to me, they're one and the same in many, many ways. To believe in life means to believe that in the end, life is working out for you. Life is not against you. Situations may happen, people may engineer, but life is not against you. Life is for you. God is for you. And if life and God are for you, or if you prefer life or God, of what should you be afraid?
Yeah, who can be against you at that point?
Yeah, of whom or what should you be afraid?
Yeah. Yeah, and once again, these experiences, and sometimes, even religious experiences, Reverend. I've told my story to you privately and on the show of my religious experiences, and the first time it happened, I don't know that I definitely had wonder and awe. I was definitely the old school concept of fear of the Lord. Definitely was there, where it was like
tremendum.
Well,
Mysterium tremendum.
Yeah, and it's the idea of this is so much bigger than me. Like literally the first time you step up to the edge of like the Grand Canyon or something like that, and you get the 270 view of it, and you're like, whoa, like the bottom just kind of falls out of you. And that was the first time that I felt that, married with this sensation of, I love you, honey. I love you so much. I'd love to say that bliss is there all the time. It's not.
Yeah.
And I can't even say that I've romantically felt it with somebody that I love or have loved. It was a form of bliss and happiness and completeness and oneness that I've strived for ever since.
I read a lot of the Catholic mystics and the Catholic saints, and they had that kind of love. They were beloved. God was their lover. I mean, they had a whole other thing going on, man. Hildegard,
Padre Pio,
a lot, yes.
Ooh.
And that was a special thing for them.
Yeah.
And not everybody is supposed to have that kind of experience, or wants to, or needs to. But for them, it was the oneness.
Yes.
Of and so God was the beloved. I don't want to please anybody but you. I just want to be. You used the word married a couple of times today. So there was a marriage between my belief, my knowing, and that of my creator. Who was it? Augustine said that we're restless, I'm paraphrasing, until we find, oh, when I rest in you.
Yeah.
And so, but they were heavy, heavy hitters, advanced. I don't know. They had stuff going on.
Yeah.
But that is, you wouldn't say that Augustine believed in God. You would say Augustine knew God. Padre Pio knew.
And granted though, and granted that's just it. Like Augustine is one of those that lived such a life before his transition.
Lord, make me chaste, but not yet.
You know, yeah. Oh no. Like Confessions of Saint Augustine is a personal.
Yes.
I mean, I probably shouldn't have tried to live the book so much. But quite literally, you know, when you live such a life that before you convert, like that your mom becomes a saint because of your conversion.
He was a rascal, man. He was a rascal, but you gotta love him. But it's the hero's journey.
It is.
It's the hero's journey. It's going through the illusions, everything he wanted, the sex, the wine, the living. It was all fleeting. And you hear that in Buddhism. You hear that in all the contemplative orders, whether they're Buddhist or Christian or Muslim or whatever. You know, I want to hold on to what's real. I don't want to get so sidetracked into what's illusory. And because I know, not because I believe. I may started out believing, but now I know.
Well,
and I think that's with the UFO phenomenon. I think it's with near-death phenomenon out of metaphysics.
Yeah,
I think it's about justice. You know, I wrote a couple sermons about justice, and there's a King used it, but Theodore Parker, a 19th century Unitarian Universalist Christian, said that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. That's a knowing. I may not even live to see it, but I know in the end, justice will be served.
Yeah. I actually just the other day watched the movie Exorcist 3. I love that movie, and one of the lines between the detective and the priest is, it all works out in the end. He's like, when's that? The end of time? Oh, that soon? There is that idea that, stoically, it will all level out. All boats get ballasted with the same water in the end. There is that.
And that's the long view, because you got to know, I may not be here to see it, but I know that life will work out in the end.
Well, sure, because otherwise you can get mired in a never-ending Coriolis effect of being drawn into horrible things, and that's just it, though, is that both with religious experience as well as paranormal experience, you do have that pull of separation of where either people don't want to talk about it, or when they do talk about it, they are ridiculed by people. And both ways can lead either people to great things or to horrible things, like addiction and wanting to not share their story anymore, wanting to not share their experience, wanting to no longer feel their experience.
Yeah. You're right. I think, I meet people who have had these experiences, and they're being told that it's the devil, that it's demons, and so they shut down and they repress, which is not good for your mental health. And but I try to say, and it's not just me, there are other people who do this, and they're not all clergy, but you have to find a place where you can be you, where you're not going to be judged. That you used to be able to go to church and do that, but those days are over.
Yeah.
Well, I shouldn't be so harsh, but it's hard to find that.
Yeah.
A support group, it could be 12 steps, I'm jumping around. Doesn't have to be NDEs. It could be, but there's something healing to be around people, to see another human face that empathizes. That in and of itself is healing. Okay, that in and of itself enhances your belief. Your belief in what? Your belief in human beings. Your belief in humanity. That there are good people out there. That there are people out there who are listening. And people, why? I experienced it. I went to a 12-step program for codependency. And 12 steps are powerful for sex addiction, for shopping, for whatever.
Yep.
It's a spiritual journey. But I got to tell you, to be not judged, I mean, you sit around and you tell people some of the most embarrassing and worst things of that you've done or that have happened to you. Most people run the other way. People come up to you and say, here's my number, give me a call.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
like, what? I just told you that, and but that in itself is healing, and it restores your belief in human beings, in humankind. Why? Because people can talk about wars and rumors of wars and whatever, and you can say, but everybody's not like that, because I remember so-and-so, and I had that experience. And so you've gone beyond belief.
Yeah.
You've gone to experience.
Yeah. Yeah, and once again, those experiences, much like belief, can change our entire world. They can change our entire worldview. And it's interesting to me how experiencers frequently tend to experience other things after they've had one experience. Specifically, people who have been on craft, been on board craft, been abducted, taken, things like that. And one of the concepts that I've been kind of exploring, Michael, is the idea of that what if that trauma, even that perceived trauma, because frequently somebody will say, like, they were telling me telepathically that they weren't here to hurt me, but it really seemed like they were. They didn't, but I kept getting this feeling. And I wonder sometimes if that traumatic situation isn't like the shattering of the matrix. And like the pulling of the matrix, the crystal out of the hard rock matrix, and the idea of with some minds without that traumatic issue, there may not be the spiritual reset.
I can attest to that. I can say for myself, it certainly was. And that fear of just the bizarreness of where they looked, and just the whole scenario. And over time, my nervous system was kind of shot, but I had to put together the pieces of what I thought was real and how I fit into that. What about my beliefs in something, a creator or creation, or all that? I had to. It was like an initiate. It was a boot camp where I had to. It took away my false self, and it made me have to rebuild.
Yeah.
And it was trauma, and it was fear, and I still have a little bit of that when I'm home alone.
Sure.
I know we talked about that.
Yep.
But at night, I wouldn't trade it. But like you, I was talking to someone last night. So it's interesting that you brought this up, Chris. They called it traumatic growth.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, and I had never really heard that term. But I think it's obvious what it means, that, there was some type of evolution or transformation that came through the trauma. And that's what makes those incidences, those events so powerful. Again, but the NDE, the divorce, the death of a loved one,
Yep.
the cancer
Well,
diagnosis that you get, those type of things. If
yeah.
you are open to it, it can lead. It's a doorway that can lead you to embrace yourself, a larger
Yep.
reality, and can lead to transformation.
Without stress on the plant, fruits don't grow. They
Mm-hmm.
don't.
Yeah.
Plants only fruit because of the stress on the plant. That's the only reason it happens. The
Yeah.
only reason a stalk on a flower strengthens is because it's been battered by the wind.
Well,
That's
yeah.
the only reason.
I do believe that we can grow through joy,
Oh,
but
sure.
it seems like we we tend to want to go the other way.
Well, and
We got to go that way in order to get the message.
a lot of that, I think, Michael, is the fact of, our brains for millennia have been wired to learn faster from fire is hot than fire will cook my food and make it savory.
Yes. Yes.
We didn't need fire to necessarily cook berries. We needed fire to keep us warm at night. It was for survival. Our brains, even eye contact, and the reason why we have eye contact and things like that evolved out of a non-threat capacity, out of
Right.
I am here to disarm you right now and show you I'm disarmed.
Right.
It came from a point of survival.
To risk being vulnerable.
Well, yeah, precisely. And the idea that, our brains are wired to learn more from negative feedback than positive feedback. You'll learn a whole lot faster from a negative situation than a positive one. Not that a positive one doesn't make you feel great, but there's also a reason why, negative words by somebody that you love about the exact same situation mean 10 times more and hurt 10 times more than words of encouragement with the exact same or laud of the same situation,
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Because when you don't care about somebody, you don't care what they say.
Yeah.
You don't take them serious. Okay, well, that's just Michael. Who cares?
Yeah. And there's even that point of getting to the point of being mentally healthy enough to not care what other people think. And that's why you're able to tell your story.
That is growth. Going back to the belief versus belief and experience. My congregation is a typical UU congregation, and we have people from a lot of diverse backgrounds there. But I got to tell you, every Easter and every Christmas, that service is packed.
Yep.
It is packed. And we have some atheists in the house. And, the reason it's packed is because I make those stories, which I'll do Sunday and which I'll do Christmas Eve. I make that story universal because it is a universal story. I'm thinking about, what's going to happen this weekend in the Christian calendar. The story of Jesus is a story of what it means to live a committed life.
Yeah.
That I believe in something so strongly that I'm willing to give up what I think is precious, knowing that there's something on the other side. And again, we don't have to be crucified or assassinated or what have you. It doesn't always have to end that way. But that is the story of someone who's gone through the hero's journey and says, this is what I stand for. This is what I believe in. So much that I'm willing to invest all of myself in that. And we can all relate to that, at least on some level.
Oh,
when we do it at Christmas time, it's you're going backwards. We're going backwards a bit, but I'm born into this world, and my parents and my society tell me I'm one thing. But as I grow, I start to realize they don't know me at all.
Yeah.
This is not why I came into the world. I came into the world for something bigger, for something much grander, just like we all did. And so when you approach it from that viewpoint, you can make that story mean something to pretty much anybody, because it's the story of what it means to be alive.
Yeah.
Belief versus, you know, or knowing.
Yeah.
And I think that especially in these times, when we're constantly in a world that's telling us we shouldn't be who we are, to be yourself is a revolutionary act.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
In and of itself.
To tell the truth in a world that's starting to be based on lies is a revolutionary act. It is an act of rebellion.
Well, and understanding that, yes, there is a capital T universal truth out there. However, the truth we're talking about is your truth.
That's right.
Your truth. And
That's right.
that truth is different than your sister's truth.
Yes.
You grew up in the same house.
Yes.
It's different. Me and my brother's truth. Different.
Yes.
Same family, same parents.
Yeah.
Same type of college. Different colleges.
Yeah.
You know?
I love that poem by George Manley Hopkins, the Jesuit, you know, a Kingfisher. And this is I like it because it's non-logical, but he says, you know, what I do is me. For that I came. For that I came.
Yep.
To be me. The unique, authentic me. That's why I came. Yeah. Just like that's why you came. Yeah. And I think people need to hear that over and over. In a world where our religious leaders, not all, our political leaders, our relationships, interpersonal, intrapersonal, where we're being forced, or at least encouraged, to not be who we really are.
Yeah, yeah, and
because it may threaten someone.
I mean, don't get me wrong, man. I'm recovering cradle Catholic, you know, as I say on the show regularly, and I mean, it's the fact of, if I could reconcile what I know of church history with what's in the Big Green Book, maybe I wouldn't have such a big problem. Maybe if there weren't just wild things that happen, like, wait a minute, somebody just died, but it's the Easter season. Only Jesus can have a funeral right now. So yeah, like no funerals till after Jesus rises from the dead. Never mind the mourning of a family or things like that. Like those things strike me as odd and even still somewhat archaic in a modern day and age when we know what we know, you know, about mental well-being of people, things like that. When that's a holdover that, you know, is it really necessary? Is it integral to the faith is the question. And, you know, but we have you for about 10 more minutes. In those last few minutes, with things like that being said, how do believers, hardcore believers, talk with experiencers? How do experiencers learn to express their experience to hardcore believers, Reverend? How do we build this bridge between the two?
It's a great question. I think that we have to give up being right. I think that both sides have to give that up, even if it's just for that conversation, and just to listen. Not to judge. I forget who was it who said that it's the mark of an educated mind to be able to listen without trying to fix, or I'm paraphrasing. And just be there with that individual. And you can always, your mind, look, hey, I'm telling you what happened to me. I'm not saying you need to believe this. Sometimes I don't believe it. But I'm trying to tell you what I'm going through. I think it has to be just that frank. Now, let me be clear. Because the onus is, if I know that this person, this individual is not going to hear me because either they can't or they don't want to, then I need to be able to not share that.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? You know, that's a big part of it. Because you can't share everything with everybody. Doesn't make them bad people. But
No.
if they're not there, and I'm not talking about a hierarchy.
No.
Oh, I've had all this, and you don't know. I'm an experience, and come on, stop it. No, I'm just talking about that we're all at different places in our evolution.
Yes.
In our growth.
Yes.
And so you have to know there's a spirit of discernment, right?
Yep.
That you know what to say. What is it? Knowledge is knowing what to say. Wisdom is knowing when to say it.
That's right.
You know, I think all those factors can help build the bridge. But if I know someone cannot hear, and I'm not saying people don't change, but it'd be like me going to my sister and keep forcing this on her.
Yeah. Yeah. For what?
Why?
For what reason?
Why? To get you to see? This is what? No. That's not what she wants to hear. Let me say this real quick.
Mm-hmm.
It's a story. It happened.
Go.
And I'm aware of the time. It happened about 5 years ago. I was asked to speak at a Presbyterian church for Lent, and the minister asked me to come speak for Lent, and I decided that I was going to talk about Jesus's last week before the arrest and what he must have been going through. And it was well attended. I was treated well. But on the way out, there was a gentleman who said, "What are you doing here? You go to that church down the street, and you don't believe what we believe." I said, "Sir, if you have a problem with me being here, you need to talk to your minister. I came here. I'm here. I don't know what else to say to you." And we went back and forth for about 3 minutes.
Sure.
And then that was on a Friday. It was Good Friday. So Easter Monday, when I went and opened up my laptop at church, this guy had sent a letter to all the churches in the area saying to watch out for me, that I was a heathen, I was a blasphemer, and he didn't even know about Unitarian Christianity, universal, and I was angry, but I took a high road, and people apologized profusely because he embarrassed them. So the point I'm trying to make is, sometimes in our quest to be ecumenical, what he did was rude and it was uncalled for. End of story. But in some ways, in our quest to be ecumenical and be inclusive, you have to timing. This man was a devout Presbyterian. This was his Holy Week.
Yeah.
He didn't want to hear a guest preacher.
Yeah.
He wanted to hear the story that fed him. Now, again, it wouldn't have bothered me, but for him.
But you've got to appreciate how it.
I want to hear the tried and true.
That's right.
I don't want to hear your interpretation of what you went through that week.
Yeah.
So how can we build that bridge to talk to each other?
Yeah.
My narrative and story is important, and so is his. And I was upset the way he came off, but I kind of thought about it. I want to hear what
you have to. And that's just it.
I don't want to hear Albert Schweitzer.
No, and it's also the fact of, you've got to love that man for the conviction that he has of his faith. And that's just it. Like when this whole crazy realm started as Dudes and Beer, Reverend, the whole protocol was the fact of, we are here to have a conversation. Yeah. We may agree, we may disagree, but next week we are still friends. We will come back to the microphone. That's what I wanted.
Just he didn't have to handle it that way.
Yeah.
But I thought about what he said. Yeah, if I'm going to celebrate Christmas, I'm not going to have a Buddhist speaker that day.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, but I mean, I wasn't that far away. I mean, I was identified at that time as a Unitarian Universalist Christian. You know, I like the intellectual life. So I used a little Albert Schweitzer, a little
Sure.
Howard Thurman. And, you know, let's imagine what it must have been like going through that week. But he didn't want to hear that. He wanted to hear his gospel.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I want to hear Matthew.
Yep.
And so I think it was a lesson all the way around for the minister who invited me,
Well,
for me,
well,
and for him.
and of the idea of true empathy from all sides there, you know, once again, you coming to the understanding of, oh, wait a minute, that ain't what he signed on for today.
Mm-hmm.
When he got up and put on his Sunday best, this is not what he was banking on when he walked in the door.
He didn't want the philosophy and the intellectualism.
Yeah.
But again, but to be fair, he needed to handle it a little differently too. There may have been other people who felt that way. If they did, they never voiced it. And like I said, to send an email out to the different churches in the area, I think that was a bit over the top.
You couldn't get more church.
No. But you know, I get it. And you know, I'm over it. But it stuck with me because I think it was a lesson learned.
Well, and it's not only a beautiful lesson learned, but it's a beautiful lesson to show and share because, it is one of those, we need to learn to take a step back. We need to learn to not make decisions in the heat of a moment, not have conversations in the car on the way to the dinner table.
Right.
You know,
right.
These are all things that lay a firm groundwork for a wall before you've ever gotten to share a project space with somebody. Yes. You know, like you have built the firm foundations for a wall before you ever came to a handshake at a table.
No, it's true. It's true. And so, you know, I think that all those things that we talked about this hour contribute to how we can talk to one another, but contribute to believing in something or someone and experiencing something or someone.
Well,
they can be the same, but they're not always.
Yeah. And one can lead to another. And yes, one can detract from the other. It's an interesting yin and yang relationship between belief and experience, and that's I love exploring that topic with you because it's beautiful. It's deep and convoluted, and yes, it is one of the most beautiful mysteries that we as humanity have. Is the idea of we can explore this, we can be there for each other and explore reality together without muddying each other's waters, so to speak. So before we let you go, in the last minute or so, let everybody know where they can go to follow you, where they can go to keep up with things, where they can go to get their copy of Enlightenment.
Of Enlightenment, yes. Barnes & Nobles. All my books are on Barnes & Nobles. The UFO-related ones, the ones on prayer and healing, and I have a meditation manual.
Yep.
If you watch Ancient Aliens, I just shot 2 episodes for the new season about 10 days ago. And there will be a new show coming out in June on the Discovery Channel.
Exciting.
About experiencers.
Exciting. I cannot wait. I cannot wait. Reverend, once again, thank you as always for your time. Always a pleasure.
Always time well spent. Give Sam a big hug.
You bet.
I just texted him and said, have a good show tonight. And he's a good man. And it's a good story he's going to tell. And we'll talk soon, brother.
All right. Well, you take care of yourself. I'll be sharing links, all that kind of good stuff as always.
Have a great holiday weekend.
Hey, you too. Blessings.
All right, brother.
All right. It is always a pleasure talking with Reverend Michael JS Carter, folks. He is one of the most amazing human beings in the world, and I'm here to tell you, whether you're religious of heart or not, Enlightenment is a beautiful handbook of philosophy and phenomenology when it comes to belief and how belief impacts our daily, how spirituality impacts our daily life. Make sure to stop on by and check that out, everybody, while you are looking at all of the amazing work of Reverend Michael JS Carter. You can, of course, find all of his books on curiousrealm.com. curiousrealm.com/store is where you can go to find all the books, all the videos, everything from our guests. You can also go to curiousrealm.com/videos, and that will take you to the YouTube channels of not only Curious Realm, but all of our guests as well, where you can follow all of their content right there in one nice, easy spot. Make sure to stop on by if you are a Roku user and download the all-new Curious Realm Roku app, brought to you by our good friends at Always Press Record Productions. They are fantastic. We'll also be on every Friday night at 7 p.m. 7 p.m. Eastern, or I'm sorry, 7 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Central, 10 p.m. Eastern on the Ground Zero Radio Network. So stop on by and check that out, everybody. Make sure to join, follow, like, subscribe, all that kind of good stuff. When we come back from this commercial break, we will be joined by Samuel Chong. We will be discussing the Thiaoouba Prophecy. What exactly was told from the planet of Thiaoouba, what the warnings for humanity were, what these amazing technologies are, and what they can do for us. We will be getting into that with the translator of this amazing book, Samuel Chong, right after this. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back from that short commercial break. Thank you so much for hanging through that with us. And, of course, thank you so much to all of our sponsors, especially True Hemp Science. They are our good friends right here in Austin, Texas. They make their CBD through an awesome spigeric process, same thing that alchemists use, where every part of the plant is used, combusted down, reused, and combusted down until nothing is left. Probably the only CBD I have ever found with actual terpene profiles. Stop on by and check them out. TrueHempScience.com is the website. Curious7 is the code that you want to use to save 7% off your entire cart of $50 or more and get two 50 milligram edibles on your way out the door. Our guest in this segment tonight is Samuel Chong. He is a translator, and he is specifically the translator of the Thiaoouba Prophecy, first published as Abduction to the Ninth Planet by Michel de Marquette. This is a fantastic account of abduction being taken specifically to another planet, learning of alien cultures, alien technologies, and what their warning message to humanity is. I have been reading through this since Samuel was connected with me, and it is a fantastic account. Samuel, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Very good. Thanks for having me here.
Absolutely. Well, number one, thank you so much for your tireless work and effort in translating this into other languages so that these messages can be sent around the world, because some of the messages that Michel garnered during his time on Thiaoouba are absolutely amazing and really things that are popping up in the world around us right now. So how did you first become aware of this work? How did you first meet Michel?
Well, the first time I was aware of the book was back in 2014 when I was searching on Amazon for a book written by ET contactees, hoping to find information, advanced technologies from people who had contact with extraterrestrials that have advanced civilizations. So I was searching random keywords, and I found this book, and I checked it out and couldn't put it down. It's fascinating, has a lot of valuable information that applies to what's going on today, even nowadays. And I read the book. I found a lot of specific verifiable information, and in the postscript of the book, it says there are more incredible things that the author, Michel Desmarquet, wasn't allowed to write about because we were far from understanding them. That got me extremely curious, and I was so curious that I decided to track him down and to ask him in person what else he knew but wasn't allowed to write in the book. So that's when I looked for him on the internet, and I found him to be living at that time on an island in Vietnam. And I grabbed a photo on the internet of the bungalow that he was living in at that time. And I flew to that island and I showed that picture of the bungalow to the taxi driver and asked him to take me there. And then on the second try, he successfully located the place. And then there I met Michel Desmarquet, the author.
Wow. And, that is an incredible amount of determination, Samuel. I will definitely say that when it comes to authors, things like that, it was a point of pride for me for a long time as far as being an on-air producer, that I could track people. I tell people all the time that I've spent my time Google stalking you because that was my job at one point as an on-air radio producer. Was my host would be like, find the person that wrote this book. They'd be like, okay. and that began the long trail of tracking down representation and contacting them and how to. So the fact that you went through the effort to contact this contactee and experiencer to find out more about his experience is beautifully moving to me. That is absolutely awesome. And now that information that he wasn't allowed to share, did he share it with you?
Not on my first visit, but on the second visit, after I successfully helped him to sign a contract with a Chinese publisher, then he said that he received a message allowing him to share that information with me. So on the second trip, he did.
Okay. Wow. And before we get into that information, let's get into Michel's experience to begin with, and let's start with how the abduction itself happened.
So it occurred without him knowing anything that was about to happen. So he was sleeping at his home in Australia, specifically in Cairns, Australia, in a very remote area. And then he woke up suddenly. He didn't know why, but he woke up suddenly. And then he wrote like a note to his wife saying that he would be gone for 10 days and there will be absolutely no need to worry about him. And then he left a note. He walked outside of his house to his yard, and then he was lifted up to the mid of the air. Then he saw this kind of very tall, like 9 or 10 foot tall, beautiful being, which told him that he was going to take on a journey that very few Earthlings took in the recent years. And then he went to a parallel universe first as a transfer station, where he saw a lot of very strange people wearing medieval clothes. And then he was told that people who have gone missing in the Bermuda Triangle or in the national parks in the US or Canada, they were sucked into this parallel universe. And I found that to be very interesting because if you know David Paulides, he wrote a book. He wrote several books.
Yes.
About the Missing 411 series of books, and explained that there are strange cases in which people just gone vanish, and even dogs cannot smell the scent of the people. They stop in the middle of nowhere. And I think this perfectly explains by the ETs why some people just can't vanish. And then he went on a journey. He went to the spacecraft of the ETs and then began his journey.
Wow. And how long did his journey elapse? Was it a lost time situation? Did he not know how long he was gone? Once he remembered the experience, did he know how long he spent on this other planet in the parallel universe?
He spent about 9 days on the planet, and then he was gone for about 10 days because there was also traveling time. Even though they traveled at a speed faster than the speed of light and also used teleportation, there was still like time needed to get to that planet and then came back. So he was gone for about 10 days or so.
Wow. And during that time on Thiaoouba, what did he learn? He was exposed to all. Let's first get into the culture of the alien civilization there, because I think that will lead us to the technology of the alien civilization, and then that will lead us to the warnings that the alien civilization had, which will lead us eventually to what he wasn't allowed to tell you. So let's start off with the culture of the alien civilization themselves. How were they different from humanity?
Well, they are extremely beautiful and tall, and they are very compassionate and loving people. They can perform all the miracles as documented in the ancient scriptures as performed by Christ. They could communicate through telepathy, they could levitate, and they could read people's minds, and then they can heal all kinds of diseases. They can travel at a few times faster than the speed of light, and they can also use their technologies to do all the different miraculous things that we can not even imagine. And they can project images to Michel de Marquet and just to show that there's a real magic as performed in the ancient past on Earth. And they explained all the different things that happened on Earth in the past as documented in the Bible, in the ancient scriptures in the Bible. And they are hermaphrodites, meaning that they have both male and female sexual organs. And they can materialize objects, and they live on a very beautiful planet in which Michel de Marquet called is the Golden Planet, because as he approached the planet on the spacecraft, he saw a golden mist surrounding the planet, very beautiful and very colorful, like golden color. After he arrived on the planet, he actually had to wear sunglasses, like facial masks, like sunglasses, filter out the strong colors and lights on the planet. Otherwise, he would have been drunken by the strong lights. He described that the colors on the planet to be extremely beautiful and having strong vibrations, and to be more colorful than the colors on Earth. So it's very difficult to describe according to him, because you can only know about it when you experience it, because it's nothing like anything that happens on Earth.
And in his descriptions of this, the one thing that struck me was, yes, the gold in the atmosphere, the gold shimmering. It reminded me a lot of the stories from Zecharia Sitchin and the Anunnaki, and about how they came to Earth because they needed gold for their atmosphere. Because the gold in their atmosphere had gone away, and they needed to mine gold to be able to put it back in their atmosphere. That was one of the first things that struck me. And I'm so glad that you brought that up, because it's a very interesting parallel to what stories that we've heard in humanity. Once again, like you said, they were telling stories of technology being able to work miracles like what we've heard about throughout all of humanity that we would consider magic.
Yes, and certainly they wouldn't need to mine gold on Earth, because they can materialize all the different kinds of things that they need. So they wouldn't need anything from Earth. They're actually in the role of mentors or professors or guardians, like guardians to us. And helping us to grow more spiritually and to live a more kind of spiritual life.
Well, and that kind of course begs the question of why instruct us, Samuel? Even whenever we had Kathleen Marden on, one of the founders of the Experiencer Resource Team with MUFON. She's the niece of Betty and Barney Hill, some of the first experiencers to ever come out with their story of abduction, and it's interesting how even she talked about with when they had their conversation with the Council of Eight, that there was a lot of spiritual content. There was a lot of direction for humanity. Why the extreme interest in humanity amongst the cosmos by these advanced races?
Because the universe is like a schooling system, educational system. There are universities, there are high schools, middle schools, and elementary schools. Actually, they're divided by different categories of different planets. Earth is actually a category 1 planet. It's the lowest category in the universe. And there's the Thiaoubans. They live on category 9 planet, such as equivalent to a university level. So they're like professors in universities trying to guide us and to induce us to live the right way so that we can become more godlike. We can follow the real purpose of life, which is to experience and to learn different lessons and to respond to the challenges in life so that we can accumulate different knowledge and to send a feedback to our higher self and to God, which is a creator and also the great ether in which people always talk about, also in the ancient scriptures in the Bible too. So each of us has a sparkling of God, because when God created every one of us, it inserted a tiny portion of itself to our astral bodies. So we not only have our physical body, but also astral body.
Absolutely. And, that is a concept that we discuss on this show regularly. Like probably at least once an episode, it comes up in some way, shape, or form, Samuel, the idea that that we are unique in the universe because we are, or at least here on Earth, because we were breathed into by God. When you look at ancient civilizations, when you look at ancient Hebrew, things like that, even the stories of Anunnaki, everything else, it's the idea that not only were we shaped and created, but we were breathed into by the Creator, which means that we take part in that creative spark, as opposed to a dog. Not saying that a dog doesn't have a spirit, a soul, that it doesn't go somewhere, that its energy doesn't amass somewhere else in the universe. Absolutely. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. That is physics. However, the fact that we take part in that creative spirit makes us unique and gives us a very special set of skills to be able to access keys to that universe.
Yes. So we are part of God and God is part of us. So in a sense, we don't need to follow religious leaders of organized religions. Yes. We don't need to follow the doctrines of politicians. We just need to look inside for answers when we encounter challenges. So there are ways to do that. One is to pray and the other is to meditate. And the third way is just to have a nice sleep, because in dreams we connect with our higher self, and when we have issues or problems, sometimes our higher self will guide us and to give us the answers if they determine that it's good for our spiritual development.
Yeah. And with that in mind, let's start getting into some of the technology specifically that Michel came across in his experience over there, and how that technology can kind of help us get to that spiritual point, how this culture had come to the point that their technology and spirituality had come together to allow their society to become what it was, to advance to a different planetary level amongst the brotherhood of planets in the universe.
Yes, all the technologies mentioned in the book are to help our spiritual development and not to destroy us. This is actually one of the reasons why Michel Desmarquet was chosen, and he was a farmer, a landscaper in Australia. He didn't have a lot of college education. He didn't even know how to use a cell phone, a mobile phone, when I met him. And so he was kind of like, so to speak, a redneck in Australia. And the reason why he was chosen was that if a physicist was chosen and he was told that the physicist would have brought information or knowledge that would destroy us, because we are not spiritually evolved to handle those technologies rightfully or maybe appropriately. So this is why the book mentions a lot of technologies that are going to help us to grow spiritually. One example is the use of color. In the book, it says that when Michel Desmarquet entered into their spacecraft, he was disinfected using blue light and yellow light. And I did some research. It turns out that Harvard Medical School had a research paper showing that certain wavelengths of blue light have antibacterial, antiviral effects. And also later on, I found out that certain wavelengths of yellow light also have antibacterial effects. So the ETs are showing us that we can use different lights or different colors to do a lot of wonderful things that are more effective and having less side effects than like antibiotics. And also it talks about the effects of pink color, which has the effect of reducing muscle strength. It's very interesting because one football coach in the University of Iowa used to paint the locker rooms of the opposing teams into pink color, and he never lost a home game. And he had the knowledge to do it. So the colors are really, really effective, and people should pay more attention to that. In fact, in the 1920s, chromotherapy or color therapy was very popular in the US in treating many different kinds of diseases. But since the discovery of antibiotics, the FDA cracked down on color therapy. And I think it's time to revive it.
Yeah. I mean, I myself, I appear on a lot of shows because I do frequency meditation music and binaural beat therapy music. And one of the things that I explain regularly, I do audio and video for a living. There's always a battle in rock and roll between lighting and audio. And I always tell them, like, guys, we're the same spectrum. We're the exact, like, your frequency of color is a tone in the musical scale. Like, we're the exact same thing. Why are we fighting each other? You know, but it's also the fact, Samuel, that we see and hear a very small slice, about 450 nanometers of wavelength amongst the entire electromagnetic spectrum. And the vibration of that whole spectrum affects us. You know, ultraviolet, infrared, near ultraviolet, far ultraviolet, they affect us in different ways, you know, and all of these wavelengths. Yes. You know, there have been, I did a lot of studies into subliminal and abnormal psychology for a long time, and colors specifically, like there are reasons why colors of paint are used specifically inside of school buses and inside of school classrooms and institutions, things like it's because it has a calming effect on the brain, like that seafoam green that you see inside of a school bus, like puts you inside of a meditative, almost trance-like state, you know, things like that. It's supposed to have a calming effect on you, and make you more tranquil. So yeah, it's interesting to see that this alien race is encouraging us to get back to that, get back to understanding that, you know, chakras, the whole idea behind chakras is there's a color to each frequency that responds to different parts in your body. and helps
Yes.
align your energies.
Yes, it is safe and effective and inexpensive or cheap. And if people use the color therapy, then it's definitely going to disrupt the existing medical system or the pharmaceutical company's interests. So I would encourage people to take a look. And I don't think that the big pharmaceutical companies are going to encourage people to pay attention to this because they will lose a lot of money. But on the other hand, if you're a shareholder of pharmaceutical companies, you definitely would protect your own interest. And a lot of the LED light therapies or color therapies are just, it only costs like $20 or $30 to buy a light like that.
Yeah, precisely. And, but it also says something, Samuel, to the fact of, which was one of the messages from the race at Thiaoouba was get back to nature. Like, get back. If you're outside, you're exposed to these frequencies.
Yes.
Like there's
exactly.
a reason why our ancient races here on Earth, ancient civilizations, things like that, had this connection. It's because when the sun went away, they saw the full night sky. That's what they had to live their life by. If they weren't connected to the night sky, they didn't know when to plant. They didn't know when flood season was. They didn't know what animals to hunt. They were integrally connected to the world around them. And
yes,
we are
exactly.
not.
Yeah, and actually one of the best medicines is sunlight.
Yes.
A lot of people say that sunlight causes skin cancer. It's not the case at all. I can explain why. Because if it did, then a lot of people in the past would have skin cancer. And actually sunlight is one of the most healing lights in the world.
Yeah, I'm a redhead, and it blows people's minds that I don't use sunscreen.
Mm-hmm.
Like I make the joke all the time, eventually all these freckles will grow together into a nice tan. But no, like, I don't think my ancestors used sunscreen. I don't remember a lot of skin cancer in my family.
And just to let you know that freckles are not caused by the sunlight, but caused by the liver function.
Yes, that's right.
I know that, yeah. And besides this, the ETs from Thiaoouba also it was trying to help the U.S. scientists to develop successfully a time machine.
Let's get into that real quick.
Yeah, in the book it says that the U.S. scientists were trying to develop a time machine, but they were focusing too much on the wavelengths instead of vibrational frequencies. So it talks about that when the planet started to form, there is a psychosphere, in which the French author coined the term psychosphere, that rotates at the speed of light, 7 times the speed of light around the planet, recording everything that happens on the planet. And then if people can just match the frequency, the vibrations of this psychosphere at the speed 7 times the speed of light, then people would be able to access what they would call the Akashic record, to go back in time to see what happened in the past. This actually reminds me of the Philadelphia experiment, in which they were trying to project a certain wavelength of the signals into the ship, and the ship disappeared and then reappeared at a different location in a different time. So I think the ETs are trying to help the U.S. government, trying to successfully develop a time machine so that we can learn the lessons in the past.
Interesting. And once again, the fact that this planet exists in a parallel dimension is fascinating to me, because that is one of the biggest going hypotheses with UFOs, UAPs, everything else right now. And that's even what's been posed and very openly posed in the hearings that have happened in the U.S. Congress is, we keep saying alien, but these may very well be from another dimension, and even the ideas of Dr. Masters, who says that they may be us from another dimension coming here trying to figure out what we did in order to fix it, and that's just it. The Thiaoouba Prophecy is very much, and that's why I love the fact that it's prophecy, because it really is prophecy in the proper way. A lot of people, I think, misuse that term. Just so you know, folks, it's not technically a prophecy if there's not a way out. If it's not a warning of change this or else, then it's not a prophecy. Like you may be a seer, like Nostradamus may have seen some things, sure, but he's not a prophet because he never gave a way out. And the message of the Thiaoubans is the fact of there is a way out, humanity. There is a way to change this. There is a way to steer your course correctly so that instead of staying at the lower vibration you are or going lower, you can raise your vibration and join the planetary brotherhood on new levels.
Yes, exactly. In the book, it says actually it implies that the past is fixed, but the future is changeable depending on our actions. And there's a way out. There's a way to change the world for the better. And it actually provides us with a solution, how we can change the world for the better, how we can act together through collective consciousness, and also through concerted action of nonviolent resistance to change the whole system for the better. And first, we need to know the real dangers on Earth first. Number one is money. Number two is politicians. Number three is journalists and drugs. Number four is religions. So once we know the issues, the problems, and the dangers on Earth, we can have a general idea on how to respond to the situations that we are seeing nowadays. And the book provides a lot of specific details and information that will help you to make the right choices in the future. And the future is actually, when people say there's going to happen, something is going to happen in the future, I tend to give some grains of salt, because it's really something that we can handle, we can determine. It's like we are just like ants walking on the ground, and the human beings can see the ants was in front of the ants, like a stone or a river or fire. The ants can change the direction, the course of direction, and we can do the same. We can change the course of our future through changing the ways we live. So this is the essence of the book, sending us messages on how we can respond, how we can change our ways of life.
Well, and specifically, though, just to get into a few of the topics that it gets into that I highlighted here, that are specifically relevant to modern society. Violence, sensational reporting, materialism, drug usage, individual and universal evolution. Those are just a few of the things where it's like, you need to focus on these. Like you need to stop sensationalized reporting. And that's something that we discuss here regularly, is the idea of, and that's a big reason why the branding color of our show is purple, Samuel. Is because that's the color that's in the middle. It's not red, it's not blue, it's not infrared, it's not ultraviolet. It's directly in the middle of the two, which is where we need to be. We need to be able to see things from both sides, because if we don't see it from both sides, then we've lost empathy. We've lost empathy for each other, and it's not feeling sorry for each other. It's understanding simply why somebody believes something and wanting not to change what they believe or why they believe it, but just wanting to understand why.
Right. We are all created by God, the Creator, and we are all the same, whether we are Chinese, blacks, and yellows, and Caucasians, and Jewish people. We're all created by the Creator. So once we know that, it's probably better to establish a common ground. And also another important concept in the book is that there is reincarnation. So each lifetime we learn different lessons, and then we accumulate the knowledge we learned in this lifetime into our astral body. And then, so when our astral body reunites with a higher self, we can have a reveal process, like life reveal process after we die, after we give up our physical body. So we're going to see what happened and how we behaved in the last lifetime, and how other people felt when we did certain things onto them. It's like a more like a holographic film projecting everything happened in your last lifetime. And so you're going to, if you did wonderfully helping a lot of people on the street or maybe others, you're going to have a celebration, a banquet, just to appreciate all the compassion and love you gave in your past lifetime. So you're going to feel highly appreciated because you're going to feel how other people felt when you helped them. On the other hand, when you killed a lot of people or when you injured or hurt a lot of people, you're also going to feel the pain and sorrows of those people. So this is the life reveal process. So once you have that process, you're going to be either very happy or regretful of what you did in your last lifetime. And then after a certain period of time, you're going to decide which lessons to learn in your next lifetime, and then which families you're going to be born into, reincarnate into. So this is the whole process of learning and constantly trying to accumulate spiritual lessons. And this is what the book emphasizes, is that life is a learning process. There's no right or wrong. I mean, everyone learns the lessons. Even Hitler, he killed a lot of Jewish people. He would feel extremely remorseful and regretful of what he did. And he would probably want to suffer the pains in his next lifetime. And so this is an ongoing process. What kind of like karma, what you give out has to come back. So this is something that people can read about and learn more about.
Yeah, and it's also, and it's the idea of, yes, once again, to bring it back where we were at the beginning, there is no destruction of energy. Your soul never stops being. So whether or not an incarnation of it or manifestation of it ceases doesn't mean that you don't cease, that your learning doesn't cease, and that you don't learn more from your next incarnation in a different physical form or in a different manifested form, whatever that may be. And that's kind of the idea, once again, is to use that technology, so to speak, to raise the empathy level and raise the vibrational level. Because yes, even though you've done bad things, even though you've done horrible things, you ain't going anywhere, you know? So bringing you back to that point of empathy through that life review, bringing you back to the point of, look at what you did. Can you see the harm? Can you understand the harm? Can you try not to do it this time? Here we go, you know? And yes, that does help bring that new vibration into the new place, wherever those souls, those beings are going, you know?
Yes.
And that is a form of technology. Knowledge is a form of technology, no doubt.
Yes. Knowledge is power, and
That's right.
This knowledge is so important to everyone to know. And I think a lot of people at the top of our world, they probably don't know this. They think that they need to have more longevity. They need to live forever. They need to have more power in order to gain such technologies so that they can keep their control. I think they need to have this kind of knowledge that when we die, we accumulate, we bring the lessons we learn in this lifetime to our astral body. And then this way we can progress at a much faster pace to the next level. And there are a total of 9 different levels in the universe. So when like a loving and compassionate person dies, such as Mother Teresa or someone else, maybe Martin Luther King, or who contributed a lot to the peace to the world. And I think they're going to move up the ladder and go to a Category 2 planet, and then they're going to live a much better life. And the higher up, the more kind of paradise the planet is, paradise-like the planet is. So on a Category 9 planet, it's a true paradise in which people live forever. Like the Thiaoubans, they don't die at all. They just live forever. And if you read the Bible, the Old Testament of the Bible, in the very, very beginning, people lived like 800 or 900 years old because the Jewish people, the Hebrew people, originally came from a Category 3 planet. So on Category 3 planet, people can live up to like 1,000 years or so. And then gradually, when their spirituality kind of became more decayed and their longevity was reduced. So I think living forever is not probably the goal or the end. I think the spiritual lessons that we learn is probably the most important thing to get.
Well, and understanding the fact of you're already going to live forever. Yeah. Your consciousness lives forever. It never ceases. It cannot cease. By all laws of physics, it cannot cease. Your consciousness. That's all we are is, by all ninth grade science, Samuel, is an assemblage of electrons. That's what this is. This is an illusion. I'm 90% empty space by all science that I learned and made an A in ninth grade.
Yes.
We are 90% empty space. You and I, despite distance, are sharing an electron shell right now.
Yes.
We are bilocating in the same space despite distance. That's the actual physics of it. So to think that your consciousness goes away, that I can't grasp that. I can't grasp that. And I am a former Roman Catholic seminarian. I taught religion for years. And yes, I taught Catholic religion. I taught the teachings of the church. I can still teach the teachings of the church. But the thing is, are people ready for this? Because this is the actual truth of it. If you need those doors and a man with a collar to bring you to this understanding, okay. You know, if that's what it takes for you, all right. I hope that works for you. Unfortunately, this is the actual truth of it, that you never go away. Yeah. It never stops. Your consciousness shifts. It moves to another state and moves to another state and continuously gets higher and higher and higher. So, yeah, it's to hear the message of Thiaoouba is beautifully harmonious to me, Samuel, because it gives so much beautiful hope, yes, where there is so much doom and gloom from so many religions.
And specifically, it brings science and religion together. Yes. It explains what ghosts are and explains the yes. process after a person dies, what happens afterwards. It talks about like when a person's physical body dies, the astral body reunites with the higher self in 3 days. Yeah. To be more specific, 81% of the astral body reunites with the higher self. And the astral body is made of electrons. And the other 19% remains in nature until a person reincarnates or when the electrons are recycled by nature. So when people see ghosts, those are actually the remaining 19% of the electrons of the astral body of the person, which resemble the appearance of the person and also has certain memories. And so this is why people frequently say that ghosts haunt the places they loved or hated.
That's right. That's right. The ones that had the most impact on them adversely or conversely, you know, and which one meant the most to their life. And even how Lama Sanglas are chosen, Samuel, you know, like this is how the title of Lama is passed on, as items are placed out that belong to the former Lama, and the new Lama is brought in, and if they have no idea what these items are. Yes. But the real Lama always finds them and can tell the story of the item. And it's absolutely fascinating, man, to see that. And to like, I've got goosebumps right now thinking about it, because like I will see that in my lifetime. Like I will see a new Lama in my lifetime, and to see that process is interesting. You know, we've got you for about another 10, 12 minutes. Let's we've gone through the culture of Thiaoouba, we've gone through the technology, we've gone through the prophecy. Let's get to what Michel was not able to write. What were the messages that he was given on Thiaoouba that were verboten for him to put on page, Samuel?
He believed that his book was not that popular in Australia back then, or wasn't really kind of read by more people, was because of the Catholic Church, and actually this book in a way kind of encourages people to follow the teachings of Christ, but also be aware of organized religions. Yes. It's so specific. It named the 4 Catholic Church Council meetings in which intentionally distorted the original meanings of the ancient scriptures in the Bible. Yep. So in a sense, he was pretty cynical about the organized religions, specifically about the Catholic Church. And when I went there the second time, he did reveal something that he didn't share in the book, in which he said to me that Tao allowed him to tell me, but asked him to tell me that not to share with anyone else. But what he didn't say was that he didn't say I couldn't write an article and reveal as many clues and give as many hints as possible. So this is what I did. So I wrote another article, which talks about, kind of gave a lot of hints to what Michel Desmarquet told me without giving the message directly. And the title of the article is The Second Coming of Christ, or something like that. So people can look it up. I can send you the link of the article, and but it's more useful to read that article after reading the book, because you're going to have more background knowledge and information. A lot of people are talking about the second coming of Christ, and to my according to what Michel told me, and I think some of the descriptions in the New Testament of the Bible, especially the 4 Gospels, are extremely accurate to a certain extent, especially towards the end, which is something like the tribulation and things like that. And I think this is happening right now. But what's more important is how we respond to the situation, which is one of the key things that the book tries to encourage people to do, which is to follow the teachings of Christ. No matter what others do unto you, you always respond by giving love and compassion to that person, because everything is about love and compassion. That's right. That's right.
I say it regularly. Feel free to keep the big red words.
Yeah.
Keep the big red words. The ones in Corinthians and all that stuff where there's hellfire, damnation if you don't believe, all that. Now we gotta get into that personal belief and what a belief is. But when you follow the big red words, it's really funny, because Jesus was a radical, man. The establishment did not like him because he didn't tout the religious status quo line. He was basically giving the mystical teachings of the high priests of Israel, the concepts of the Kabbalah, everything else, to the common man. The direct connection to the divine, not like you need to give a burn sacrifice. You need to go out to the courtyard. Oh, that's what you need a sacrifice for? Go over there, buy a goat from that dude. Part of that money's going to come to the temple. Then bring your money sacrifice to the temple. Then we'll burn your goat. Make sure God hears your prayer. Christ was like, you are directly connected to that. You're directly connected. And that was a problem. That's a big problem. When you're talking shaking up status quo, when you're talking about where are we going to get tax money, when you're talking about all kinds of things that Thiaoouba's talking about. Get rid of the partisan politic. Get rid of, start focusing on the spiritual side of life and start focusing on what's better for humanity as a whole spiritually than what's better for a religious line, and yes, as you said, following that Christ consciousness, that idea, the actual teachings of Christ, pretty funny because there was next to no judgment in any of those big red words.
That's right.
I remember distinctly one line of judgment, which was prevent anybody who prevents a child from coming unto me is better to have a millstone put around his neck and cast into the abyss. So if you're keeping people from capital T truth of the universe, you are better off having a millstone put around your neck and cast into the abyss, is basically what those big red words were saying. Yeah. So, thank you so much for your time, Samuel, and for translating this, for getting this absolutely important message for the future of humanity out there for a massive culture to be able to read. It's so important to be able to get these concepts out there, to be able to open hearts, open minds to the conversation. Let everybody know, of course, other than the Curious Realm store, where they can go to purchase the book, where they can go to keep up with your writing, because you've got some great stuff, as you said, talking about Christ consciousness, everything else, and great follow-up articles to Thiaoouba Prophecy, The Golden Planet. So where can people go to find the books? You've got an upcoming convention that you're going to be at as well, talking about all of these teachings. So let everybody know about all these things, bud.
Yes, people can find me by searching my name, Samuel Chong, Chong, on Google, and also on Facebook. And they can find my website and articles. And I'm going to be appearing in the Alien event in April 11th to the 14th in Los Angeles. I'll be speaking about the book and also the human energy fields and this relationship with traditional Chinese medicine. And actually, this book talks about the auras and human energy fields as well. So I'll be talking about those two topics. It's going to be very interesting.
Oh, fantastic. Samuel, thank you once again for your time. Thank you so much for your diligent effort in translating this amazing work and these amazing messages from the Thiaoubans from another dimension. These are the conversations that I love having, because without them, Samuel, we do not explore humanity. We do not explore the concepts that do take us further spiritually and mentally. So thank you so much for your time. I greatly appreciate it. Please hold the line while we close things out with the audience. All right?
Okay.
Awesome. While you are online checking out all of the amazing work of Samuel Chong and his translation work, as well as the Thiaoouba Prophecy, The Golden Planet, make sure to stop on by Curious Realm. CuriousRealm.com is where you can find all the episodes. That is where you can like, follow, subscribe, share, comment, all that kind of good stuff. You can also find all of the books from our guests right there at CuriousRealm.com/store. You can keep up with all the episodes as well as our meditation and binaural beat music with the all-new Curious Realm Roku app. If you have a Roku device, just search Curious Realm in the App Store and you will find the Curious Realm. We are also officially now carried on the Ground Zero Media Network. We are carried on Aftermath Media, as well as KPNL and APR TV. So thank you so much, everybody. Thank you as always for tuning in. Thank you as always for your open hearts and open minds. That is what makes the conversation. And without the conversation, as we say all the time, humanity does not march forward. So remember, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and stay curious. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of The Curious Realm. Stay tuned for more guests, forbidden topics, and hidden truths. Follow us on social media by searching Curious Realm. To download the official Curious Realm app and view the Knowledge Vault, or become a sponsor of Curious Realm, visit our website at curiousrealm.com. Curious Realm is available on your favorite podcast and video services, as well as KPNL Radio, APR TV, and the Curious Realm app for Roku devices. Curious Realm is a proud member of the Ground Zero Media and Aftermath Media family of podcasts. For more great shows and members-only content, visit groundzeromedia.org and aftermathmedia.com today. Thanks for listening. Stay curious, and remember, the other side is always watching.